It happened on a Tuesday, a day that was, until that point, profoundly boring. The sort of day where the most exciting thing on the news was a debate about the correct way to load a dishwasher. And then Switzerland did something. Not just something. The something. They dropped a financial bombshell so large that it made a volcano erupting in a kitten sanctuary look like a minor inconvenience. This wasn't just a policy change, it was a declaration, a quiet, polite, very Swiss declaration. They were picking up the rulebook of global finance, tearing it into tiny, neat pieces and recycling it. What did they do? Oh, nothing much. They just decided their gold wasn't for playing games anymore. Switzerland is supposed to be neutral, the beige Volvo of countries, reliable, sensible. A place where the biggest drama is a cuckoo clock running 2 seconds slow. Cheese with holes in it, fantastic watches, they stay out of everyone's business. But on this particular Tuesday, they decided to get involved. They looked at the world, endless printing of money, spiraling debts, a system held together with duct tape and wishful thinking. And they said in their calm, multilingual way, no, they unleashed chaos, not with an army but with an announcement. And the world's most powerful economies felt a tremor they hadn't felt in decades. Trading floors in New York, trading floors in Tokyo. Imagine driving a Bugatti Chiron at 260 miles per hour. The world is a blur. The engine is screaming a glorious anthem of power. You are a god of speed. Then without any warning at all, the road simply ends. That was the feeling that rippled through trading floors. The Swiss had just changed the game entirely. They had taken their vast hoard of gold, that shiny, heavy, reassuring metal, and linked their currency directly to it, a gold standard. In 2025, it was mad, it was brilliant, and it was absolutely terrifying for anyone holding a mountain of paper dollars. This wasn't just some academic exercise for economists to write dull papers about. This was a direct, two-footed tackle on the world's reserve currency, the US dollar. For years, the dollar has been the king. The reaction was not calm. It was not orderly. It was a global, synchronized panic attack. The moment the news broke, computer algorithms went into a state of shock. They saw the word Switzerland. They saw the word gold. They saw the word standard. Screens on trading floors in Manhattan turned a uniform, terrifying shade of red. Screens on trading floors in Hong Kong turned red. It was a sea of negative numbers. The Dow Jones plummeted. It was carnage. A bloodbath measured in trillions of dollars. Investors, big and small, did the only logical thing they could. They ran. They sold dollars. They sold euros. They sold yen. They sold everything that wasn't nailed down. They tried to pile into one thing, the Swiss franc. The currency surged with such violent force it threatened to break the foreign exchange market. At the same time, the price of gold went ballistic. It didn't just climb, it launched into orbit. It soared by hundreds of dollars an ounce in hours. People mocked as doomsayers for hoarding gold looked like financial geniuses. And then he emerged. From the gilded halls of Mar-a-Lago, the unmistakable voice of Donald J. Trump roared into the chaos. He didn't use a press conference. He didn't issue a formal statement. He went straight to Truth Social, the digital equivalent of shouting from a very large balcony. The post was pure, uncut Trump. Switzerland just went to gold, a move I was talking about for years. The failing Biden administration let this happen. They have no clue. The dollar is crashing and everyone is laughing at us. It's a disaster. People are calling me very important people. And they are saying, "Sir, you were right." Sad. The former president was, to put it mildly, incandescent. In his mind, this wasn't just a financial crisis, it was a personal affront. He saw Switzerland's move as validation of his long-held skepticism about the dollar and a catastrophic failure of his successor. He framed it as a moment of national humiliation, orchestrated by fools in Washington and clever foreigners who were running circles around them. Amid the political theatre and market chaos, a terrifying number began to circulate among analysts at the US Treasury and the Federal Reserve. $48 billion. It was the estimated immediate increase in annual interest payments on the US national debt caused by the sudden spike in borrowing costs. See, when investors lose faith in a country's currency and bonds, they start demanding a higher interest rate to compensate for the perceived risk. And with a national debt already north of $35 trillion, even a tiny increase in rates translates into a colossal amount of extra money the government has to pay out. This wasn't just some theoretical problem for the future. It was a sudden gaping hole in the current budget. To put $48 billion in perspective, it's a staggering sum of money. It's actually more than the entire annual budget of NASA. It's enough to fund entire government departments. And honestly, this was just the beginning. The Swiss move had set a new benchmark for safe money, and the US dollar was no longer at the top of the list. The ripple effect didn't stop at America's shores. It spread across the globe like a financial contagion, shaking the very foundations of international cooperation. World map of interlocking gears, Switzerland gear glowing gold. For half a century the world had operated on a shared understanding, an unwritten agreement that the US dollar was the central pillar of the system. Central banks in Japan, China, Saudi Arabia, Europe all hold trillions of dollars in their foreign reserves. They did this because it was considered the safest, most liquid asset in the world. Suddenly, it wasn't. The Swiss had just demonstrated that holding massive amounts of another country's debt-based currency might not be the wisest long-term strategy. This created an immediate and profound tension. Every finance minister in the world was now facing a terrible dilemma. Do they start selling their dollar reserves to protect their own country's wealth? If they do, they risk accelerating the dollar's collapse and cratering the value of their remaining holdings. But if they don't, they risk sitting on an asset that is losing its prestige and, potentially, its value. The moment the news hit, the world's opinion havers went into overdrive. Gold bugs, the fiscal hawks, dancing in the streets. For years, they had been dismissed as cranks. Now, they felt vindicated. They appeared on every news channel, their faces grim but triumphant, declaring this the inevitable consequence of decades of fiscal irresponsibility. "We told you so," was their rallying cry. They hailed the Swiss as heroes, as the first adults to walk into a room full of children printing their own money. On the other side were the mainstream economists and central bankers, the high priests of the current system. They were horrified. They called the Swiss move selfish, reckless, and dangerously deflationary. They warned that a return to any kind of gold standard would be a disaster. Politically, the debate was just as polarized. Democrats and administration officials scrambled to project calm, insisting that the fundamentals of the US economy remained strong. So what happens now? The world is standing at a financial crossroads, and both paths look treacherous. Volatility. Markets will swing wildly on every rumor, every statement from a central banker, every tweet from a certain former president. Gold will remain the world's fear gauge, its daily fluctuations showing how nervous the planet is. The Swiss franc will be the ultimate safe haven, but Switzerland can't absorb all the world's capital. That creates distortions and pressures we haven't seen before. The next few months are not for the faint of heart. The Federal Reserve is in an impossible position. It faces a stark choice: raise interest rates dramatically. That would almost certainly plunge the US into a deep, painful recession. Long term, this could catalyze a redesign of the global financial system. We could see a basket of currencies. My advice, the same I'd give before testing a Koenigsegg.